All right, we're a few minutes after the top of the hour. Thank you for those that have joined us today. Certainly do appreciate your time. My name is Kyle Lee. I am the Senior Construction Solutions Specialist here with ATG USA, and I am joined by my friend and colleague from the Autodesk Construction Solutions team, Ms. Lisa Stine. And today we're going to be talking about Autodesk Construction Solutions and why plumbing subcontractors need those solutions, need those different products. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the features in some of those products and take a look at a couple of the different products that are available under the Autodesk Construction Solutions umbrella of products there. So let's go ahead and move forward. I want to start things off with a poll question here. So let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll right now. So certainly appreciate you taking just a moment to read through the two questions that we've got there and submit your responses. So question number one is, how are you currently managing your project bids? And we have a couple of different options that are available. So please select the one that best describes your firm's current process there. And then the second question is, how do you currently perform work in place tracking? And so we've also got a few options there. So let us know how that looks for your team currently. We certainly do appreciate any feedback you can provide there. So I'll give that just a few more seconds to have the poll up. And then we will wrap that up and move forward with the meat of the webinar for today, okay? All right, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap that poll up. Thank you for those that were able to submit some responses there. And so now let's go ahead and let's just dive into our agenda for today's webinar. So again, why plumbing subcontractors need the Autodesk Construction Solutions. And the primary topics that we're going to be touching on or talking about today are the use of a clear and single source of truth for your project data and information, or a common data environment. That's what CDE stands for right there. We'll also talk a little bit about how we have the ability to better control file sharing on the project utilizing the Autodesk Construction Cloud. And then also talk a little bit about visibility into issue responsibility on projects utilizing the Autodesk Construction Cloud, as well as the other Autodesk Construction Solution products. Then we're going to let Lisa take a few minutes to talk with us about bid management and bid performance utilizing BidBoard Pro. And then she'll also be walking us through some of the work in place tracking capabilities within the Assemble Systems platform as well. So let's start off by talking about clear single source of truth and why that is so important. You know, construction is a collaborative process, but it's still very much fragmented. We have teams that are working in a multitude of different solutions, whether we're talking about early design solutions for our architects and our consulting engineering partners, and then we're also talking about other tools that might be utilized downstream, whether that's to possibly analyze the model data or project information. It could be, third-party tools that allow you to, again, look at calculations around things like possibly voltage and voltage drops for electrical. But in the case of plumbing, it may be for, again, looking at things like, understanding what's going on with the actual construction documents and understanding that we're utilizing and working off of the most up-to-date information. And that's why a clear and single source of truth is so important, because while it is a collaborative process, we do see all of these different solutions being utilized. And we also see that teams have different ways of really housing this information. And when different teams are utilizing different methods or different platforms, even possibly for the storage of their project data, that can cause a problem, because important information about the project may not be getting to all of the project partners that need to have access to that. And we see that there's still a very large number of different firms in the industry that are doing a lot of this very manually and in a paper-based way. And so it's really hard to manage things like that whenever it's something that's written down on a sticky note or jotted down in a person's notebook, but then that information never gets relayed from that piece of paper back into the project repository for others to be able to understand and utilize that to move forward with the project. So having a clear single source of truth in place is so important, because again, we want to make sure that everyone not only has access to the data that is important to them for the project, but we also want to make sure that they always have access to the most up-to-date versions of that information as well. So that's why a common data environment or a single source of truth is so important whenever we're talking about managing our construction projects as a whole. And also for some people, just even participating in construction projects in conjunction with their general contractors or some of their other project partners there. So I'm going to kick it over to Lisa to talk a little bit about some of the negative consequences that we might see if we don't have a single source of truth, clear single source of truth in place, and some of the positive outcomes that can be realized when we do start to leverage that type of a platform there.
Thanks, Kyle. So some negative consequences when we don't have a CDE is that we miss key information and deliverable dates. And this makes sense, right? Because we've got information kind of being hosted in a various different places. Everything is siloed. We don't have a common space to look at things. And so things get overlooked. With that comes schedule and budget overages. If we're missing key information, we're missing dates of things, we're going to inevitably run over on schedule and run over on costs, right? We're also going to run into repetitive work. So if we're not aware of what everyone is working on, we're going to be doing redundant tasks, and that's essentially just a waste of resources. And we're also going to potentially be working off of obsolete information. So if I'm not working in a common data environment where I know that all of the most relevant project information lives, I'm just working off of information that I'm kind of finding, I have no way of knowing that that is the most up-to-date information. And so chances are I might be working off things that no longer are relevant. And that is going to kind of go back to that repetitive work piece. But if I am leveraging a common data environment, then I have assurance that my projects are being completed on time because I have complete insight to all of the key project information and due dates, right? We can check things off. I have a lot of assurance that my project is moving along in a positive way. I also have a consistent flow of project evolution. Again, because I can see everything in one space, I'm able to say, okay, we've done this. We're not running into that repetitive work, which is essentially taking 10 steps backwards. Our trajectory continues to be upwards and positive. I also have confidence in project information. If I'm leveraging that collaborative space and that's where everyone is storing their information, then I have no reason to doubt that I'm working off of nothing but the most up-to-date relevant project information. And all of this culminates into my winning more work because I'm producing better results. And so in turn, I have a better brand, I have a better reputation, I get more jobs.
Absolutely. No, those are great points to call out. And, that's the reality of it, is that we've all been in scenarios where we've seen how much it can be, or how impactful it can be if just even one single person is working off of information that may not be the most up to date. And that can really be a tremendous drawback from, again, project schedule, cost, and really just becomes demoralizing for a lot of people. So knowing that you can jump into the platform and you're always seeing the most up-to-date information is very, very important, because things change so much on the construction site, from, not just on a day-to-day basis, but sometimes even from hour to hour. And so knowing that we have the most up-to-date information at our fingertips is crucially important. So next, let's take a really quick look at what I've got here on the screen right now. Is basically, I've just taken some snapshots from within the Autodesk Construction Cloud platform and a couple of the different modules that are available, because different team members may be utilizing different modules within the platform. But what I'm really trying to demonstrate here is, regardless of the module that we might be in, because on the left-hand side, we're looking at the docs module, and on the right-hand side, we're looking at the build module. both of these within the same project. But as you can see, all of the file information that's being stored in the project is exactly the same, regardless of which module you might be leveraging on the project, given your role as well. And so we can also see there, we have our folder structure that we can build out. Based on what your needs are for the project or for your standardization process. And then we can also see the files that are being stored within those file folder areas. We can also, as we look at some of the different file names over in the actual folder itself, we also see that we have versioning here that's built in. So I can see that we have, version number 1 on some of these files, but some of these files are also version number 2. So again, as new information may be put out regarding that particular file itself, when it gets uploaded into the project, what it does is it creates a new version. We still have the ability to leverage and maintain previous versions, but it always brings that most up-to-date version up to the forefront. And when we click on that file, that's what we're looking at by default. So that's very important to, again, be able to ensure that we have that single source of truth that everyone on the project can leverage. And we also have the ability to control people's access. And we're going to talk about this next, talk about control file sharing, and we'll talk about how we can actually, manage permissioning into the different folders in your folder structure so that we can have a better control over the files that are being made available to our project team. So, again, that's just a great segue into our next topic here, which is, again, controlled file sharing. And controlled file sharing is massively important because, again, we want to ensure that our project partners have access to the project information that they need, and that it's the most up-to-date information. And also, we want to understand or have the ability to not only control what different team members may be able to see, we also may want to control how they're able to interact with those files. Do we want to give someone a permission or access into a folder where all they can do is go in and view the files that are stored there? Do we want to have give someone a permission accessing them into a folder and giving them the ability to modify or edit those files that are being stored there? Those are all things that you can do within the Autodesk Construction Cloud platform that, again, are going to help you ensure that you can control the file sharing across the project as a whole. So now I'm going to kick it over to Lisa again so she can talk a bit about some of the negative consequences when we do not have control file sharing in place, and then some of the positive outcomes when we do.
Thanks, Kyle. All right. So when we don't have file sharing in place, people see information that they shouldn't, right? If we just have all of our information in one space, but we don't have the ability to kind of segment it out and control, then if we have everyone in the same file or project space, they see everything. And this is most of the time not an ideal situation. We also sometimes are sharing information via links. And what happens in that situation is that those things don't expire. So if I just want someone to have a window into some document or some data set for just a short amount of time, I don't have that ability if I'm not utilizing file sharing. They just kind of get that information and it's a free-for-all and they have it forever. And in some situations that can be a little bit dangerous. We also have to send information out in siloed ways that don't really guarantee that it's being seen. So again, if I don't have an effective way to file share, a consistent way to file share, I might just be sending emails out. Those go to people's junk mail, they lose them, they accidentally delete them, they forget them. So I don't have the assurance that my information is being seen by that person. That then can lead to repetitive work, can lead to schedule and budget overages, right? We don't have the confidence that the information that needs to get seen and utilized is actually being seen and utilized. But when we do have a file sharing system, then we can share with only who we want to. So if there is information that is for, Kyle's eyes only, I can just send it to him. Everyone working on the project does not have access to that. And I can also share for just as long as I want to. So again, if I'm sharing something with Kyle, but I only need him to see it for a week, after a week, maybe it's irrelevant, it's out of date, and it could lead to bad outcomes if he continues seeing it and working off of it, then I can choose to share it with him just for 5 days and then he loses access, right? So there's flexibility in that. You can also share in a way that people are going to see it. So Kyle's going to show you that we can actually choose who we're sending things to, and we can understand if it's something that they have received. We can see kind of audit trails or just submittal receipts, right? Of transmittal receipts of assets and documents that we need to get sent out. And that just gives me that assurance that everyone is working off of the information that I've sent out. They've seen it and they can't come back at a later time and say, I never received this. We have proof that they did.
Absolutely. And so Lisa, you're absolutely right. I'm going to, in this short video, I'm going to show some of the different ways that we can control file sharing on the project. But before we jump into that video, I do want to call out, I was talking about being able to set up different levels of permissions. And that's one of the things that we're going to see here in the video. One of the things though that we can do is we can set up permissions for people to only be able to upload information into a folder, but not be able to see any of the additional data that may be stored in that folder itself. So let's think about maybe we're requesting, maybe we've sent out an RFP. And now we're actually getting those bids back from different potential partners on the project. But we can set up a folder there and give those individuals access to that folder as an upload only, and it acts like a blind Dropbox where you can actually store and house those bids. But then other people on the project team would have the ability to actually go in and view all of the files, review those, and then be able to award as necessary. So right now, though, we're going to talk about 3 primary ways. I'm going to show 3 primary ways that we can control file sharing within the Autodesk Construction Cloud. And so the 3 ways that we're going to look at is with the managing of permissions on the project, then with the ability to share either folders, entire folders, or individual documents within the project, as well as the ability to create and send out transmittals. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So again, this is just talking about or showing how we can set the permission level at the folders. And so we can definitely, control who has access to see what within each folder. And we can set these permissions either at an individual user level, at a role-based level, or at a company level. And so as you can see right here, we're in the architectural folder. We gave the architectural team edit capabilities, but we gave the electrical engineering team just the ability to come in and view files that may be stored there. They're not going to be able to open those up and edit those. So now we're going to take a look at our ability to share within the platform. And again, as I mentioned before, we can share either at a folder level or at an individual file level. And as you see there, we have the ability to share with individuals on the project or even external individuals that we can send a link to. So now we actually go through the process here of showing how we can create that link to send to outside individuals. We can set that expiration date. So that goes back to what Lisa was talking about and being able to control how long someone has access to that file for as well. And so next we're going to take a look at how we can create a transmittal. And so this is a great way to be able to send out information, whether we want to send it out to multiple people on the project and everyone know who it went to, or we can even send out transmittals as showing up basically as a blind transmittal. So the individuals that you're sending that transmittal package to would not see each other on there. So you just go in and you select the different documents that you want to include in the transmittal. Okay, then we're going to come in and we're going to give the transmittal a title, and then we need to just select our recipients that we want to send that out to. And again, we can do this the same way that we can set permissions. We can send that out on a user level, role-based level, or company-based level. Okay, we can now you can see we just completed that process there. It tells us when that was created, shows us the number of files that are included with that transmittal. And now something that we do not see in this video here, but if we were to go back into this particular transmittal itself, the transmittal package, we would be able to then see who had received the transmittal and physically access the files that were part of that transmittal. So that gives you that documentation, that accountability that you can go back to and say, wait, I know that you guys got this transmittal, and not only were you included on the transmittal, I see the record that you actually went in and accessed the transmittal as well. Okay, so that will take care of control file sharing. Now let's talk for a few minutes about visibility into issue responsibility. That's one thing that we see on all projects are, issues that may get created and also, potentially RFIs that may come along with that as well. And so it's very important though to be able to understand what issues, maybe it's important to understand what issues have you created and assigned to other individuals or other teams, but it's also just as important to be able to see and understand very quickly which issues may have been created on the project and have been assigned to and are the responsibility of your team as well. And so, if we don't have that visibility into issue responsibility on the project, that's when we start to run into things like, budget overruns. I'm sorry, schedule overruns. Because, hey, somebody says, I didn't know that was assigned and out there for me. Well, we're going to see in just a few minutes when we take a look inside of the Construction Cloud platform, how we can easily understand, all of the issues that have been created on the project possibly, but we can most importantly understand what issues are the responsibility of myself or my team and when those issues need to be resolved by. But before we take a look at that, we're going to turn it over to Lisa to talk about some of the negative consequences that we see whenever we don't have good visibility into issue responsibility on projects, and then also positive outcomes when we do have that in place.
Thanks, Kyle. All right. So when we can't see issues, they don't get resolved, right? I might, tell Kyle that I need him to work on this, but if I'm not explicitly putting that in a collaborative space where he has insight into it and around details of that issue, and other people have insight into it and the details of that, he might not do it. And if he does do it, I also don't really know that he has, right? We need to be able to track these things in a common space. We also don't have transparency into who's working on what and what the status is. Why that becomes a problem could relate to redundant work. If Kyle's working on something, but I don't know that he's working on it, I might also start working on it or send someone else to work on it too. Now we've got duplicate effort going into the same thing. But it also, again, doesn't provide me insight into what the progression is. Is he almost done with his task? Does he have another 2 days? Project activities are based off of the item before getting done. So I need to understand what our schedule looks like, but I can't do that if I'm not looking at all the issues in one space. And then, as I mentioned just a minute ago, a lack of visibility leads to more rework. If I don't know what folks are working on, I might assign other people to be working on those things too. Now we've got 2 people doing them, but also if we don't know that, these issues have been assigned to people, we're not holding them accountable and we're progressing on with our project where there's issues that needed to be resolved. We're going to have to, work backwards, right? We're going to have to do some rework there because we're not taking into consideration the things that we already highlighted that needed to be fixed in order to move forward. But if we are looking at issues, if we do have issue visibility, then we can closely understand where we are in terms of issue closure. I can see that Kyle's been assigned an issue. I can see when his, projected date of closing that issue is going to be, and then I can understand what the rest of my schedule looks like based on that. I also have confidence that appropriate revisions are being made, again, because I have visibility into the issues. I can see them. I can see that the people assigned to those issues are actually tackling them. And I have confidence that we're moving in a positive direction. I'm not just, trusting people's word of mouth, essentially, right? And I also can hold people accountable. So not to throw Kyle under the bus, but if I see that he has 10 issues that he was supposed to be working on and he hasn't touched any of those, I can reach out to him and say, hey, can you give me a status on these? We're not able to do that if we're not tracking issues in a common space.
Absolutely. And that's so important. And that Kyle guy, he has been known to just kind of blow off the issues if they're not physically assigned to him, and he hasn't had the ability to track those. So, but yeah, as we mentioned a moment ago, we're gonna show a short video here, just talking about and showing some of the visibility into issues on the project. But one of the things that's very unique about the platform is, and that I really like about the platform is, it's not just about creating issues. Okay, this is a platform that really, the intention here is, as an issue gets created, the workflow is really to work towards full closure that issue. So again, we may have the ability to create an issue or send an email about an issue, but as we talked about, having the ability to track the progress that the other teams are making with that issue and them having the ability to update the status of those issues drives us towards that mindset of, issue closeout. At the end of the day, at the end of the project, really what we're looking to do is to be able to go in and see all of our issues on the project and see that all of them are in a closed out status. So let's take a look at some of the workflows inside of the Construction Cloud platform to help better understand visibility into the issues. So within the platform, we have our issues area. We have that in Docs as well as in the build platform there. And so we can clearly see, who is that issue assigned to? Is it assigned to an individual? Is it assigned to a company? And so we can assign issues in those different manners. We can also assign issues to a specific role that people might be assigned to on the project. We can see the title of the issue hovering over it. We can see the title if it's not fully visible there. We can also expand that if we needed to. But when we click into it, we can see all of the details about that issue. We can see any screenshots that may have been associated with the issue. It could be a screenshot from, say, a set of 2D plans. It could be a photo that was taken out on site, okay? And again, we also had the ability to, as you can see here, right, on the right-hand side of the screen over here, we do have the ability to filter and be able to look at specific statuses. So maybe we only want to see those issues that are open or in review. Maybe we only want to see the ones that are assigned to myself or my team. We can filter in that way, and then we can export that out. Another thing that's nice as well is in our reports area, which you can see over here on the left-hand side of the screen, we have the ability to set up customized reports around the issues on the project. And we can basically set it up with that filtered view. And then also on top of that, have those reports scheduled to run and come to me on a regular basis and have those emailed out to me at a specific time of the day. So whether it be, once a week or maybe 3 times a week, I can have that report scheduled to run, and it's going to show up in my inbox at 7 a.m. And I'm going to see I can look at just newly created issues, or I can look at all issues that are open, or anything that's not closed possibly that's associated with me or my team. And then I can see that, however many times per week I would like to, and again, have that sent to me via an email and show up in my inbox. I can also have that sent to other people on the project as well through the report scheduling also. Okay, so that's why it's, again, that's how we're able to use that platform to really not just create issues, but manage those issues through the process to closure, and then being able to provide that proof that we have resolved anything that may have come up on the project along the way as well. So right now, I want to take just a moment to talk a little bit about some of the different Autodesk Construction Cloud modules that we just discussed and we have been discussing to this point. And then I'm going to pivot and I'm going to hand things over to Lisa for us to talk a little bit about managing our bids and as well as being able to manage work in place tracking on the project. So as far as for the Autodesk Construction Cloud modules that we've been discussing, we've seen a lot of the videos and some of the screenshots where we were looking at Autodesk Docs. And so Autodesk Docs is that module within the Autodesk Construction Cloud platform that is your common data environment. That's that single source of truth. And it's there really to manage document control, document versioning, and you also have the ability to set up different review and approval workflows so that you can actually, run your you have that higher level of QA/QC on the job information that your teams are making available to other people on the project as well. So that all starts out with Docs. It's also where we have the ability to create those transmittals that we were talking about as well. The next thing that we talked about, or the other module that we talked about rather extensively, is Autodesk Build. The Autodesk Build module is really intended for your project and field management. It's all about being able to understand and manage quality and safety on your project, being able to work towards and provide that project closeout documentation, and as well as being able to tie into the cost management of the project and being able to understand your project's budget, understand your project contracts that are in place, and how our project is performing against the awarded contract that is in place. And at the base of all of this is that document management piece. So with Build, you do have access to the Docs module, but as we saw in the very first screen capture that I provided there, we saw that, you know, anything that we see in Docs, we're pretty much able to see in Build without having to move between those modules. So we do have the access to those, to the project documentation directly within that Build module. Okay, so now we're going to move on and actually start to talk about some of the extended Autodesk Construction Solution modules or solutions that are available. And for that, I'm going to hand it over to Lisa. We're going to talk a little bit about Building Connected in BidBoard Pro, as well as Assemble Systems. Then we're going to actually jump into those products and take a look at those live.
Awesome. Thanks, Kyle. Yeah, so as Kyle mentioned, first we're going to take a look at bid management, and then we'll go into model conditioning and work in place tracking with Assemble. So first stop is Building Connected. What we are going to look at today is BidBoard Pro, which is a product that lives inside of Building Connected. But just know that Building Connected itself is really a tool for general contractors to manage all of the bids that they're putting out for their projects and the subcontractors that they're bringing onto their projects and looking at the bids, where BidBoard Pro is the subcontractor instance, right? So that's where we're receiving the bids from the general contractor. We're looking through all of the project scope, the information, understanding if we have the resources needed, right? And what our proposed cost for that would be. So we'll be looking at the bid management instance of Building Connected today, again, called BidBoard Pro. Things that we'll look at inside of there are forwarding bids to the online bid board. Again, you know, we talked about working in a collaborative space in the Autodesk Construction Cloud. It's also important, though, to work in a collaborative space in terms of bid management, so that we make sure that we're not, you know, losing sight of any bids, and that, you know, we're responding to everything in a timely manner, and all of the bids coming in have been assigned to someone, so that they're not kind of, you know, just falling away and we're losing sight of them. So we'll take a look at that, of getting our bids in there. We'll understand how to go through the bidding process, decide if we want to bid on something or decline it. We'll look at managing all of those bids again in one space. We will look at syncing up our calendar to, again, just make sure that we're not taking on too many projects, that we have the allocated resources to be doing these projects. We will look at assigning bids to team members. We'll look at analytics and data, very, very important, so that we can recycle information from previous projects onto new bids and new projects that come in. So that's the first place that we'll hop into. But Kyle, yep, if you want to go to Assemble, we'll also take a look at Assemble specifically for work in place tracking, but also just model conditioning in general. Being able to look at your model and 2D sheet and all of the inventory, so all of the different components of that model, looking at all three of those things in one space. Being able to add additional properties to each of those components too, for whatever you want to track. Maybe it's installation status, maybe it's the activity number, maybe it's the bid package, right? We'll look at a lot of different things that we can do inside of Assemble. Things like design reviews, things like estimating, scheduling, understanding change management, and then most importantly, or really the focus on this call today, is work in place tracking. All right. So from there,
all right. Yeah, I'm going to stop my screen share. Yep. And now you can turn on your screen share and we can jump into BidBoard Pro.
All right. So go ahead and share here. And Kyle, if you can just confirm that you can see BidBoard.
Let's see here. Yes, ma'am, I sure can.
All right. So as I mentioned, BidBoard Pro is a program that lives inside of Building Connected. Building Connected can be accessed here on the left-hand side. And again, that's really the general contractor's instance. So how this workflow would typically go is the general contractor would go into Building Connected. They would build out their project, all of the different scopes that are included in their project, and then they would start creating bids from that process, right? Those bids would get sent out to subcontractors. might be you, right? If those bids are sent to you, they're automatically going to come into your Bidboard Pro account into the undecided bucket, right? So that's one way that bids can come in. They're just coming in from Building Connected from the general contractor. Another way that we can bring bids into this undecided platform is manually bringing them in. And you can see the bottom bid down here says manual. That means that I created the bid inside of Bidboard. So maybe, you know, as things are kind of becoming normal again in the world, I'm out and about and I hear about an opportunity, I can just click on this bid invite button over here and I can type in all of the information about this bid or about this project that I know, right? I can put the name in there, who the client is, when it's due. If I know if this is a request for a bid or a budget, I can put that information in. And once I fill this out, I would click save if I had actually typed anything in here. That's going to build out a row for that bid for me, which is what I've done here. From there, I can dive further into that bid to add out more information. We'll look at that in just a second. The last way that we can bring a bid in is by having the system automatically scrape your email address, right? So if I want to bring in bid invites that are not coming in from Building Connected, that are not coming in manually from me, then I can simply forward those, right? So I can forward them directly from my email inbox and they will land in here. What's really nice about that is anything that was in that email, any files, any documents, all of the project information will automatically be created in the bid itself. So I don't have to fill any of that out. It just automatically comes in for me. And again, would create another row down here. I don't have any forwarded bids in here, but if I did, instead of this saying manual, it would say FWD, which would just tell me that that was a bid that I had forwarded in. So you just kind of have insight into how these bids were generated. Again, if it says nothing, it means it came from Building Connected. So the next thing I would do is hop into one of these bids here to just get more information about it. So I can click in here. That's going to show me a little view of it. But if I want to see the full screen, I can click into this expand button here. Now from here, I can see where the project is located. I can see the due date, the job walk, all of the key due dates over here, right? So I'm not missing anything. Now, if these happen to change, anything with a pencil next to them is something that I can revise. So let's say that the due date of this actually changes to April. I can just update that. And now everyone on my project team has visibility into that due date changing. It's very important that we're not siloing this information again, so that our whole team knows what's going on. Now, again, if this was a bid that you're forwarding in or that was created in Building Connected, a lot of this information might already be filled out for you. But if any of this changes, you can update any of it. And if you happen to know who the architect is on this project or the engineer, you can fill this information out too. We want to fill out as much information as we can, because when we go into the data and analytics in just a little bit, we'll see that we can sort by these things. So for instance, if let's say that there was an architect working on this project that you have worked with before, we could go into data and analytics. We could search by architect, right? And find the projects that have had that same architect working on them before. And you might be able to recycle information from that previous project onto this. So there's a lot of valuable ways that we can use previous project information. So just good to fill out as much as you can in here. Now, over on the right-hand side where it says internal use, this is information that is just for your company. No one from the general contractor, no one else will see this, right? This is for you to track your internal resourcing, okay? So you might want to tag it because, again, in data and analytics, you could search by certain tags. So let's say this was a certain type of plumbing job, right? We want to recycle this information for other similar plumbing projects that come in. And so we might want to associate a tag by this or associate a tag to this so I can search for that tag and easily find the other similar projects that we have won and completed, right? So we can recycle that resourcing information, but we can fill out market sector, priority, our estimated hours, our win probability, all that good information. If we happen to find out who competitors are, we can put that in there too. Again, anything in here are things that we can search and filter by in our data and analytics tab. So just important stuff to be able to track. Also just great for your own company to be aware of those things, right? The next thing that we would want to do is assign somebody from our team to this opportunity, right? So that they are responsible for it. And this is so it doesn't just fall between the cracks and we forget about it and we lose out on a really great opportunity. So I would just click into assigned here. I would grab somebody from my organization, grab someone I know so I don't freak someone out. I'll grab Austin, and now he is assigned to this. So it's going to be his responsibility to move this bid through the progression of undecided to whether we're accepting or declining. And then if we've accepted all the way to 1 potentially. Okay. If we want other people to follow along, just get notified as this bid progresses, then we can add them in here as well, but they will not be responsible for the bid. Okay. So from here, we'll go back into our undecided tab. So again, that bid lives down here. If I want to add notes, comments, right, this is a really great way to kind of chat with your team to let them know of any progression going on with this bid. Again, so we're not doing redundant work and we're all aware of where we are in, in the decision of this bid. We can certainly communicate here. But the next thing I would do is decide whether or not we're going to bid on this opportunity. So I'm going to go ahead and say that we are bidding. So now that opportunity is gone, right? I have the ability to add a priority in here if I want to, or an ROM, but I don't have to. So I can go ahead and save this. That opportunity is gone and it's been moved into accepted, right? So now we see the opportunity down here. If I had decided to decline it, right, I could certainly do that. The opportunity is just gone, but it goes into the archive tab. So we're never deleting information in here. We're just moving it to a different bucket. But again, if we decide to bid on it, it's going to accepted. So from there, right, we can continue to comment and chat with our team here. So we're all kind of in the know. But the next thing that I would do is, again, open this opportunity and I would go into the bid form. I also want to point out quickly, I didn't mention before, again, if there were any files that came from forwarding this bid in, they would live here, but you are also able to upload files or create a folder structure in here too, right? These would be files coming from the general contractor or the client, and these would be internal files that you might be leveraging for this, right? And then also, if the bid was generated from Building Connected, you are able to directly message the general contractor from this platform too. So just be aware of that. But in the bid form, right, this is where I can send it to the general contractor. I'm going to really confuse Austin and send it to him too. I can put a value, right, of what we think that this project would be. Let's just say $60,000. If I want to give it a new subject, I can put my message down here and then I can attach my proposal in here. So from there, I would go ahead and send it off. Now, when I send it off, it's going to move into the submitted tab. Okay, I'm not going to send it. Well, maybe I should. Well, if once I submit it, it would go in, or once I, submit it, it would live in the submitted tab. And then from there, I would have the opportunity to just say whether we won it or lost it, right? So similar to how I see accept or decline in undecided, I would see win or lost in the submitted tab. And then from there, I would hit win if I lost it, or if I won it, I would hit lost if I lost it. The one bids will go into the one bucket here. Okay, and so they can live here as long as you want them to. This is where you can start putting in contracting, start dates, duration, your estimated crew size, all that good information. Again, if I lose it and I submit it as such, it's going to live in archive. We're never deleting anything. And so your one opportunities can stay in here as long as you want to. When you're done with them, you can archive them and they go into the archive bucket there. And that's the whole process, right? But it's key because we don't lose sight of bid opportunities that our organization has received. And we have that visibility and transparency into who's working on what and, where we are in terms of completing those bids. So that's the whole process. Just one other thing I want to show you in here is analytics. So analytics is going to show you your performance for the past year and then this year. So you can see your hit rate, you can see the hit rate by dollar amount, you can see, I think this is really powerful. Sometimes we get a lot of opportunities in the undecided tab and we don't realize how many we have until we come into here and see that maybe we've got 500, right? So this just kind of helps us reset and understand where we need to put some attention. And we can also see our bid history. So a lot of great information down here. The only other place I want to show you is reports. So I mentioned that you can really filter by anything. So let's say I've got a report of all of my opportunities in here, and I want to filter by opportunities that, maybe, let's see, were a certain project size, right? I could come in there and put my project size in there, and just opportunities that match that criteria would pop up. So as I mentioned, if there's a certain type of project that you just got a bid for, and you know that you've done a similar type of project before, you can simply come into the reports, filter by whatever similarity you're looking for, find those projects, and then you can hop directly into the project to see how you bid out that project before. So a lot of really wonderful information in here. You also can share this with other people from your organization too. They don't need to have a BidBoard Pro account to be able to see that information. You can simply share it, and that will export it into an Excel spreadsheet for them. Okay, so that is BidBoard Pro, and we've got a few minutes left. I do want to hop into Assemble. As I'm switching over, I know I'm going through this fast, so I know that reaching out to Kyle after this call or anyone from ETG will be very helpful if you've got additional questions. So for Assemble again is a model conditioning platform. It also helps with work in place tracking. So what I would do is hop into my Assemble project. Now these are linked to Revit models here. So once I've got this connected to my Revit model, I can see the different models that live inside of here, right? So my structural, my electrical, plumbing. We're going to focus on plumbing today. But I see those models here. I also see different views. Now, just know that views are essentially views that we've saved from a specific model. So if I know that I'm just looking at piping, maybe I filtered all of the other components out in a certain view, but I don't want to come into my model every day and have to go through that same filtering process again. I just want to save that view so that I can pop into it really easily. That's what a view is. It's just, we've done a filter. We've saved it to get it to look the way we want to, and we just don't want to go through the process of doing that every day. So these are easy to just click into again and go right back to where you were the day before. Okay, so a little bit of setup. I'm not going to go through too much of it. If you wanted to, edit the project in any capacity, maybe we won't do that today. Okay, if we wanted to edit the project, right, we can see the members of this project. I could link it to a Construction Cloud project too, right? I could pull in Assemble properties, which is what we'll talk about in just a minute. But know that, kind of keep that in your head. We'll go back to that in a minute. If I want to manage data trees, anything like that, this is the place to do it. Okay, but once we're comfortable with that, we can go into one of our models here. So we're going to go into the plumbing model. And we're going to do a little bit of navigation, kind of introduction to the system, I guess. So what we see on the left-hand side, it's called our inventory panel. And we can see that we're grouped by category. So this is showing me the different categories of components that live inside of this plumbing model here, right? I've got my pipe accessories, pipes, plumbing fixtures, and any of these I can break down to see the actual component. Okay. Other things that I can see here too, and I can kind of customize this, are the different columns. So if I hop into columns here, you can see I can pick and choose what columns are being shown there in my inventory panel. So I mentioned Assemble properties. Assemble properties are essentially properties that you are creating that live on top of the metadata that's coming in from the Revit model. Okay. So if I scroll down, we see model properties. These are things that we cannot change. These are things that are coming in from the 3D model. I can choose to click on one of those and bring them into my column because maybe it's information that I want to see, but I can't edit these. But Assemble properties are additional properties that I want to track. Maybe I want to track cost code. Maybe I want to track the activity ID, the installation status, right? Those are all things that we can track. So when we think back to creating the project and editing things, we can import Assemble properties so that you don't have to build these out for every project. You can just leverage Assemble properties that you use on a previous project, and that helps with project consistency. Okay, but if I wanted to bring in additional information into the inventory panel, I could just click it in. It's built out into my columns. Similarly, if I decide I don't want something, maybe the volume, I can exit out and now it's gone from my columns. So then my inventory panel is updated to reflect the changes that I made to the column structure. Okay, so from here, again, inventory panel, what I see over here on my top right is the model itself, right? I can click into any of these components, you notice when I click into that component, it also highlights it for me in the inventory panel. So I can see exactly what I'm looking at. I can see the units of that, the quantity of that. If I scroll up, I can see exactly what category of piping I'm looking at. So it's very, very informative here. Now, we also have the 2D drawing down here. If this pipe lives on one of the drawings that exists in my Revit model, then I'll also be able to see that component highlighted on my 2D sheet down here. So let's take a look. So right now it's showing me all of the sheets that I have pulled in from Revit. So if I feel more comfortable working in a 2D space, I certainly can do that, or I can work in a 3D space. That is not on one of our drawings. Let's give this one more go. Nope. Okay. So what this means is selected is that if I'm clicking on a component, if again, that component exists in one of my drawings, that it would show up here and I could go directly to that drawing. So I could see the highlighted component in 3D, in 2D, and in my inventory panel. But if that component is not in one of my 2D drawings, then nothing is going to show up under selected. So that's just what that means. But if I feel more comfortable working in a 2D space, I could click on one of these drawings here. Maybe I choose to hide 3D. Maybe I don't like the 3D space. I can just turn that off and just look at 2D. I can scroll in. Same thing with the 3D. If I click on a component in here, let's see, that probably actually doesn't even have any piping in it. No. If I clicked on a component in here though, it would highlight what component I'm clicking on in the inventory panel. So just important to note that everything is interconnected. Okay, so let's go ahead and open 3D again. Shut 2D. The next thing that we're going to look at quickly are just the properties. So if I click on a component over here, got this component, and I go into, all I did was click into properties here. I can see the assemble properties. So again, these are the properties that I have imported. These are things that I specifically want to track. So installation status, cost code. If I had bid packages in here, I could add those. And if I scroll down, we go into model properties. So again, things I cannot change, but that are coming in from the metadata from the 3D model. And this is information that often our folks don't have, right? If they don't have access to the Revit model, then they usually don't have this information, but they are able to have it in this capacity. Also important to note that everything I'm doing on my computer, I can also do on my iPad. So you could have folks in the field that have all of the constraints and characteristics of the components that they're installing, which is incredibly valuable to have. Okay, so we can look at properties for any of our components in here. Another thing that I want to show you is the model tree. So we are specifically just looking at the plumbing model, but if I need to see how the plumbing model fits in with the mechanical model, I can simply just toggle this on and the mechanical components will be put in there, right? Not only with the 3D model, but also in the inventory panel. So you can look at as many models as you want to together if you need to kind of understand how things are going to look as they're constructed, or just what all of those layouts are going to look like, right? But you can see that right now we just have the plumbing model on. The other thing that I'd like to show you, so we're selecting all of our components, right, in our inventory panel, and we're going to change the visibility. So let's say that I am just curious, it's called creating a rule. When we do any kind of process like this, we want to make sure that we're grouping by the same as what we're grouping by in our rule, right? So I'm grouping by category, I'm grouping by category here, so that's good. Let's say I just want to see pipes, right, that are on a certain level. So I can type in level here. I just want to see pipes on level 3. Okay, and then from there I can click, and I could get as granular as I wanted. I could say level 3, level 2. I could do as much as I wanted, but let's just say level 3. We'll go ahead and update that. And all of a sudden, everything that doesn't pertain to that doesn't fall into that rule has been deleted, not really deleted, but is not visible to me. And we can see that the inventory panel has been updated to reflect just what I'm wanting to see. So you have a lot of flexibility in here, which is super nice. So if we delete those and update, we'll bring everything back in. And the very last thing that I want to show you is work in place tracking. So we're going to colorize, we're going to do work in place tracking. Well, that is for installation status, right? So just like with the rule, we want to group the same way that we're going to be colorizing by. So we're going to be grouping by installation status. So I'm changing this to installation status. And now we're going to go into colorized here. And we want to turn this on, and we want to colorize by installation status. So we're going to find that. Okay, so what I might do to begin is just grab everything, grab all of my components in here. Actually, we won't do that way. So we're kind of running out of time. So we'll just go through what this shows me. This shows me that anything green has been installed, right? So this pipe here has been installed. Anything red has not been installed. Now, if I'm doing this on my computer, it's a little bit manual because I have to grab the component. I need to go to the properties. I need to change the installation status to installed, right? That can feel kind of tedious. But if you are on your iPad, I can just drag my finger around on this model and mass select all of the components that have been installed, and from there change their installation status. So let's say we're on site and we get this whole chunk over here installed today. On my iPad, I can grab all of that. I update the status. That gets updated in the inventory panel. We can go and see all of the work that we've done today and maybe all of the work that we have yet to go. So work in place tracking is just a fantastic way to visually see what has been done versus what is yet to be done. And as I mentioned, Kyle can help answer any questions around this, but hopefully this was informative on BidBoard Pro and Assemble.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lisa. I certainly do appreciate that. And you're absolutely right. If anybody has any questions, we'll be able to help out and answer those. I really like Assemble for a couple of different reasons. First of all, and even earlier on, we can throw that Revit model in there. It's automatically extracting those quantities associated with each category. So we're already starting to look at kind of a takeoff view of what the materials are on the project, but then also having that ability to, track your work in place that's happening and being able to colorize and be able to see, what's installed versus what hasn't been. That gives you great ability or insight into what's going on with the project and where we're at from a progress standpoint. So those are all huge things right there. And really nice to be able to, again, look at that and very easily be able to tell just from a visual representation of what's installed versus what is not. So, all right, we're going to jump right back into the slideshow here and just kind of bring things back and wrap up here. So I want to talk for just a minute about some of the primary Autodesk Construction Cloud differentiators. So Lisa, I'll turn that over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Kyle. So first, we've got unified data. And that's essentially what we've been talking about this entire time, right? All of the data is connected. So as we progress through the project, we've got a clear understanding of what's been done, what's yet to go. And everyone working on the project is sharing their information in the same space. So we are all fully connected. We're eliminating siloed data. Business insights. So this also allows us to really understand how we're progressing as an organization, right? What is our reputation looking like based off of, kind of the project outcomes that we're having? We have a module inside of the Construction Cloud called Insights that basically is a dashboard that shows you what your performance has been like. And because we're managing the whole project in one space, we get insight per every facet of the project. Enterprise grade. So this is an account level, organization-wide product, right? We are managing projects as a whole. So if you want to build out a template to really enable consistency within your organization and make sure all projects are running the same way, we're enabling you to do that. And lastly, pervasive simplicity. We know, I come from construction and engineering. I know that if we are giving folks a very complex software, it is not going to be used. And so the whole platform is made to be very, very simple to use so that folks want to use it. They understand the value of it and they continue to use it and continue driving great work.
Absolutely, and very, very configurable at that as well. So great, thank you so much, Lisa. Well, team, at this point, we typically do take some questions, but I know we're already a few minutes over our scheduled time, and I want to be mindful of everyone's schedule for the remainder of the day. If you do have any questions about anything that we've spoken about in today's webinar, please do not hesitate to reach out to ATG. You can do that through our website, atgusa.com, or you can reach out through the the email address sales@atgusa.com. So feel free to let us know if you have any additional questions or if you'd like to take a look at any of the products that we discussed today in a little bit more depth. So again, thank you for your time. Appreciate you joining us. And until next time, have a great rest of your day. Okay? Thanks so much.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and check out some of the other content on our channel.